What is up, guys, and welcome to some more F1 2020 gameplay. The cork in the bottle, that being Hanoi for this game, has been released, and we can now show you guys gameplay. You guys might have seen Codemasters release their own gameplay, a standard hot lap around this circuit. We've been given the go-ahead to actually show some of our own gameplay around this circuit, and that is what I'm going to do. I only have one video I can show you, so I'm going to make it this one, and I'm going to go for, well, a pretty easy world record attempt. It seems that all of the time trial leaderboards have been reset, and for me the car feels, I don't know, slightly different. It might be just because I've gone back to F1 2019 and come back to this game, and I've noticed that the traction is a little bit harder in second and third gear compared to the previous game. But regardless, we're back on F1 2020, and yeah, you're going to see my first laps of this circuit. I say first laps, I did do about 5, 6, 7, 8 laps previous to this, but this is my first actual recorded laps and my first laps in time trial. So yeah, we'll see how we go. There was a big learning curve when it came to getting to grips with this circuit. It's unlike any other. There's so many long sweeping corners that require a lot of patience. There's so many different lines you can take into various corners, especially in the first half of the lap. Then when we get to the latter stages, you get the really fast high-speed S's, and oh man, it's just an absolute nightmare to traverse those corners in a Formula 1 car. But if there's one thing I had to say about the circuit, that, you know, is required to be fast, I definitely say late apex is the trend of this circuit. If that's something that suits your driving style, you're going to have a lot of fun here. But yeah, for me, that took a little bit of getting used to. So I think I did about 15 laps-ish around here. I was driving for a while, and it did take, yeah, a long time to get up to grips. So you guys are going to see the whole build-up phase of me getting towards where I put in a really stonking time. I think it was a 34 or something. We're currently in the 37s, so a long way to go to get there. You can see we run in a little bit too deep there into the penultimate corner, and that was the lap ruined. And even though I went off circuit and lost 10 seconds, I still had the lap deleted, which is fair enough, because time trial, you got to be stringent on those kind of things. But how do you guys rate my flick spin here? Just about utilizing the extra track space there and a slight nudge of the wall. I think in real life, if I made that contact, the car would still be okay. But anyway, turn 1. You don't really want to use a lot of the curbs around here at this circuit. They can be quite tricky. This little corner here reminds me of Shanghai, the opening couple of corners, where you just absolutely need to nail the apex, and no matter what you do, it feels like you never quite nail it satisfactorily. Let's roll with that. But yeah, you got to take a really late apex at turn 1. There's a really heavy braking zone at the end of the back straight, which is quite similar to turn 1 in the fact that you really need to take a late apex in order to be successful there. I broke a little bit early and turned in too early in that Snell section in the first sector, and you could have seen just how much time I lost. This time around, we're testing the waters and seeing if we can use extra track space. No, that definitely does not work. So yeah, we're just finding the boundaries here at this Hanoi street circuit. You can see my previous best isn't great. I overshot that corner completely. This roundabout corner is what I'm going to call it. Very, very understeery inducing. You kind of need to kick the back end out a little bit with a bit of oversteer and wheel spin in order to help rotate the car sometimes. I don't know. There's like literally a million different lines you can take through a lot of these corners. So I find that when we race here for real on the F1 game in open lobbies, there is going to be the biggest skill gap you will ever see on any racing circuit we've ever done. France was a big separator of the men from the boys, but this is going to be tenfold that because of all the walls and just how every corner literally leads into the other. Like this part here, you have to be so focused on getting your entry and approach right for the next corner. As soon as you're nailing an apex and going through a corner, you've already got to be thinking about the next one. If you get one part wrong, you are absolutely losing time through all of it. But Yeah, much better run now. We're getting into the 35s. Still not 100% nailing every corner like that. Those curbs there, you don't want to touch either of them because they'll just upset the balance of the car and you can't get on the power as early as what you like. Same too with turn 1. I tried a whole different amount of approaches, mounting it with one wheel with the whole car, and it more often than not, it's not really worth the risk. You've got to just avoid the curb as much as you can. You can see this time around, I actually went off the circuit there, all four wheels outside of the white lines, and that was okay. It seems like you can get away with that a little bit, but not too much. So yeah, I probably need a little bit of tweaking. The game isn't out yet. Still work in progress, mind you. And there was one or two like tire bundles which I was able to phase through when I was having a crash. But if you're on a proper lap, you won't be phasing through them anyway. Again, hitting barriers. This right-hander here was the bane of my life for about 10 minutes, as I just kept on hitting that on good laps, this being one of them. We follow up with another one. I think we might actually hit that same wall on this next lap. Again, trying to mount the curb here. I haven't learned the lesson of late apex and just missing the curb altogether, but we will get there. Starting to nail this corner though, as you just need to hold a really wide line and then swing in and focus on the exit onto this little straight here. It's just, this track is so technical, it's so complex. It's really going to be good for people who like a particular driving style, I'll say that much. This is a much better run through here. You can kind of use the curb on the left-hand side to help rotate the car in a weird way. But yeah, we managed to nail it there. I'm running with a default setup as well, by the way. So the understeer is a little bit worse than what it will be when you guys will have setups on. Just a couple of aero changes, and I'd say probably a couple of suspension changes to help make the front end a little bit more bitey. Will make the behavior of the car so much nicer around this circuit. But yeah, on the default setup, I was struggling for just a bit of understeer, really. A slight raising of the wall there. But not too bad. Here we go, through the fast right-hander. Do we hit it? No, we don't. We missed that. But you can see our lines are kind of compromised here as we don't have as much space or room to work with. Final couple of corners. I think we nailed this a little bit better. And we managed to edge in front of our previous best through the final corner. That's actually a really satisfying corner to nail because you're not quite on full throttle and you have to ease off a little bit, but it's really tight on exit out of the last corner. Watch again as we go through here, 5th gear. Really have to use up all the track width there to get the best momentum onto the next lap, and it's really satisfying. Here again, I think we touch it just about, and that invalidates the lap, so very frustrating there. Lap 9, you can see we are now starting to utilize the technique of a really late apex at turn 1, and it's starting to pay dividends. 2.5 tenths up as we go through the snail section. That extends to over 3 tenths, but we're losing a bit of ground now as we run through the 3rd sector, and I've mounted the curb too much. There's no real simple corners around here, apart from maybe some of the 90-degree corners, but apart from that, your racing line techniques are really tested at this circuit. At first, I really didn't like driving around here. I thought it sucked, to be brutally honest. But the more I drove it and the more I started to nail it, the more I loved it. It's a real driver's circuit, this one, not necessarily a racer's circuit. I don't imagine it'll be that great in real life, but on the game, with such a big skill gap, like in open lobbies, I think it could be quite good. A bit of a wall tap there for me, opening the DRS while sideways. That was a very hairy moment for us there, but I believe, as we get towards the end of the video, this is my fastest lap, so let's ride on board for the entirety of this lap. 5th gear, flying out of the final corner, using up all the track space, and now ranging up into turn 1. You want to brake really late here, kind of turn in as late as you possibly can, and then get a better exit to set up the snail section here. Running right out to the white line. You can see we just keep one wheel inside of that, and then trying to get a nice exit here. You can see I'm actually down on my previous best, but the exit is much better. We're nearly a 10th up as we approach the roundabout now. So the braking point here is this big black box on the left-hand side just before that, and try and cut this first part. You can do that. You can mount the second part of that curve there as well. Try and rotate the car on entry, then ease off the power as you try and rotate and get the nose in, and then floor it on the exit, open the DRS. This is the longest straight in bloody history, I think, as we're just waiting for the big braking zone here at the hairpin. This corner, you really want to brake as late as you possibly can. Another really late apex, braking at the green signage above, and then turn in as late as you can, short shift to second, and then there's a lot of wheel spin you have to manage there in second and third gear. Braking now at the 100, I don't know where the ripple strip starts on the left-hand side, that's probably the reference. Really tight through here. There's really only one line you have to make, but you've always got to be thinking 2 steps ahead from here just to make sure you can get back to the right and then back to the left just to set up the next corner and give yourself as much space. I know that didn't really sound like it made much sense, but in my head it did. Second gear, nice rotation there, and then setting up the final corner. Do not bottle this. 5th gear, very understeery inducing, but we nail it, and that is a 1:34.839. A very, very good lap. Honestly, there isn't too much more I could have improved on this lap. Another 10th or 2. But on the grand scheme of things, I really did feel like I nailed that lap. A lot of crucial corners that were tricky to nail consistently. We managed to do a pretty good job of it on this lap. So, guys, that is my first little look at Hanoi in Vietnam. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. This is set in time trial on the Ferrari with the default setup with no assists. And we have the best time by 6 seconds. But 3 people on the time trial leaderboards. The times did get wiped. I would have loved to have known what the previous best times were before they all got deleted. The likes of TRO Limitless, Eye Contrast did their times. I feel like that's a really good time for the build of the game that we have now. Yeah, not much time. I could really improve on that. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll leave you guys to enjoy the replay camera view of the lap. And let's hope that we'll have some more F1 2020 gameplay to come soon. I know that there's potentially going to be another build being sent to us or something. I'm not too sure. But as soon as we're allowed to, I will upload more. But from me, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you next time.